Dorothea tells me we're almost in La Junta, Colorado when we get off the train and stretch our legs. This doesn't happen very often, so I decide to stay awake for it. The cabin in the coach is dark except for the little lights that show on the aisle floor and a couple of people that have their overhead lights on to read. I have my light on to keep me company. I'm looking out the window at the black night when suddenly I see the reflection of Tender Trunks standing in the aisle. I turn to him. Hey, he says. Hey, I say. Did you get your money back? Yeah, but I want to give mine back to you. Really? Why? He shrugs. That woman is right about gambling. Some people are really hurt by it, but I think that's a lesson for next time. If we all did something we shouldn't have done, why are you the only one that should get punished? We get our money back and you have to give it. It doesn't seem fair. I think about this looking at him. So here, he says, and extends a handful of quarters. This is $5, which is about what you won from me, but certainly less than what you won from all of us. I look at his hand and his arm, which is kind of veiny. He looks skinny but strong, like maybe he ties a lot of knots with thick rope or chops wood or whatever it is that the scouts do to kill time in the woods. Come on, take it, he says. I make a cup of my hands and receive the coins, warm from him holding them. I gotta get back before they send a search party. I said I was using the latrine. Latrine? You know, bathroom. I shake my head. You guys are dorks. He smiles again, then turns to leave. Thanks, I call out, but he's already gone. I count the quarters and it's $5 like he said. I think that maybe I should give it to Neil and Amtrak for the food I ate since I didn't have money, but now I do. But then I think about how I'll be hungry again soon enough and can use the money for more food. The lights of La Junta appear in the dark windows. The train slows down and a small station comes into view. It's old and fancy like some of the stations. It's not old and fancy like some of the stations. It reminds me of the dry cleaner in Palm Springs where Grandma went to clean the dress she wore at funerals. Dorothea appears. Come along, honey. Stay by my side, okay? Yes, ma'am, I say, all southern-like. A conductor puts a plastic yellow step at every door, and people step off and onto the platform, stretching, lighting cigarettes, and ambling around. A few people are getting off for good and take their luggage with them. A few are getting on. See those Indian women, Dorothea says. Poor things. They sit there with jewelry they make up, hoping to sell it to people who get off the train to stretch their legs. But the train's so late, there ain't hardly anyone getting off, and the poor thing's been waiting all day. I look at the women and the girls sitting on the pavement with blankets spread before them, covered with jewelry. Native Americans, I say quietly. Dorothea looks at me and shakes her head. You're right. I gotta stop calling them Indians. Can I look? Sure, honey, we got a few minutes. I look over my shoulder at the train as I expect to see it pulling away, then walk to the women and their jewelry. Dorothea walks beside me, checking her phone. I slowly move from left to right, past the half-dozen women, and then back to a little girl. She's maybe 6 and has little bracelets made of tiny beads on thread and pretty designs. Did you make those, I ask? The girl looks to her mother, who says something to her in another language, then nods at me. How much? She holds up 3 fingers. I bend down to look more closely and choose one. It has beads the color of the red dirt we've been seeing since we got to Arizona and New Mexico, and beads that are white like the fluffy clouds of the southwestern sky, and turquoise beads that are the color of nothing but turquoise. Can you help me tie it on? She looks to her mother, who takes it and ties it to my wrist. It looks nice. I smile at the girl, and she smiles at me, but she looks tired. I fish the $5 and quarters from my other pocket and give it all to her. She counts it and tries to give me back $2, but I tell her to keep it. She says something to me in her language and looks at her mother, who smiles. She says she likes your hair. Thank you, I say, and then look at the girl. Thank you. I don't think I ever needed to earn money by the time I was her age. I hope she sleeps well. It has rained in La Junta earlier in the day, and the air smells good. Walking with Dorothy on the platform, I get goosebumps from how wonderful it smells. It reminds me of the smell when it rained in Palm Springs, which is different from the smell of the rain in New Orleans. The rain smell makes everything seem new and full of possibilities. I fill my lungs with it as we walk from the back of the train to the front, then back again. We'll have a longer stop in Kansas City whenever we get there, she says. We head back toward a yellow step to board. I feel dreamy. I'm feeling good that I gave the little girl an extra $2. We come upon Neil. Look, I say, holding up my arm to show the bracelet. Then I remember it cost money I supposedly didn't have, so I hide it behind my back. Neil sees me and smiles and hides a lit cigarette behind his back. I feel my brow furrow as I think about how people are always hiding things and doing things they shouldn't do, things that hurt them and things that kill them and things they do anyway. I wonder whether the people who care about Neil worry about him dying from smoking. I wonder if anyone is worrying about me. Back at the train in my seat, I look at my new bracelet and think of the little girl who made it. It's tough for her to have to be out late, but at least she's with her mother. I'm constantly thinking about how easy or hard the lives of others are, especially when I'm trying not to feel sorry for myself. Back in Palm Springs, after Grandma died, Les and Ray took me in, and I slept on their couch. But then a nosy neighbor came, Eunice, who didn't think it was right for me to be living with them, and reported me to Child Services, and they took me away from them and put me in a youth shelter. Most of the kids there had parents who were in jail or on drugs, and they stayed there waiting for their parents to get off of drugs or out of jail or for some better option to miraculously appear. I had been in places like this before back in New Orleans. Mom would get arrested, and I'd hang around in a neighbor's apartment until they'd get sick of me and call the agency. Then I'd be in a shelter until Grandma coughed up the money to ship me out to Palm Springs. This happened a few times, going back and forth, each time Grandma making me feel bad about how much of her money she had to spend to send for me. And even though she hated paying the money to send me back, she'd be sick of having me around, so she'd put me on the next bus as soon as my mom got out of jail, instead of waiting for my mom to come up with the money. Then finally my mom died and there was no more back and forth. Dr. Lola hoped that when I was in Palm Springs I'd be accepted by my classmates better, but it never worked out that way. I never really fit in. The shelter I got sent to when they took me away from Les and Ray was called Tumbleweed Terrace. It was about a dozen portable buildings and a field of dust, but the food was okay, and they had books and board games. Les and Ray got to visit me, and they came every day for lunch for the 2 weeks I was there. They'd bring me food that was even better than what they served at the shelter, and usually a piece of candy. Almost every day, someone new would show up to replace one or two, or who got taken somewhere else, usually back home. But there was one girl who had been there for 3 years. Her name was Espy, and she was exactly the same age as me. We were born on the very same day in the very same year. Espy had long dark hair and a pretty smile. She liked to read like I did, and we spent a lot of time talking about books. The more I got to know her, the more I liked her. Her mom was a drug addict, but she could never get clean. Espy said her mom wanted her back, but she couldn't quit long enough for even a supervised visit. Espy never stopped hoping, and she never unpacked her suitcase. Every time she did laundry, instead of hanging her clothes in the closet or putting them in a drawer, she folded them and put everything back in her suitcase, like any minute her mom would show up. But it had been 3 years. After I was at the shelter for 2 weeks, word came that this distant great-uncle in Chicago would take me in. He was Grandma's older brother, and I'd scarcely heard a word about him. Picturing myself living with an older man version of Grandma wasn't the kind of thing that made my heart soar. Everyone at the shelter acted like it was a happy thing, a happy ending, but I preferred the idea of staying with Espy and having lunch with Les and Ray every day. Instead, they'd show up the next day with a lunch packed all pretty with a sweet note inside, and I'd be gone without a goodbye, and Espy would stay behind with her packed suitcase. Back at my seat, the coach is dark and the train rocks me to sleep. I dream of my father, or the dream version of him anyway. I never knew him, but in my dream, he is handsome with a cleft chin. He dresses smartly and smiles when I come into view. In reality, I never come into view because he was gone before I was born. He never knew I existed, but in my dream he spots me in a crowd because of my hair. He approaches me and tells me he's sorry, and I slap him. I slap him because saying he's sorry is too little too late, and because he'll never be near enough for me to slap when I'm awake. I wake up and it's dark in the coach and dark out the window beyond the curtain. We're rolling slowly through a small town in southeastern Colorado. Bright floodlights illuminate tall green elevators painted white, and a coyote the color of sand who watches us pass. He's more alone than any of the creatures I've ever seen. After the bright lights, the darkness of the empty space that comes after is even darker, like the quiet that's quieter after an argument. Dorothea is asleep beside me in the aisle seat. Her head is tilted back, mouth open. I'm cold, so I zip up my hoodie as high as I can, and I put my hands in the pockets. Then I lean into Dorothea just a little and close my eyes.